Silver Springs used to be the Florida attraction. Before Disney, before SeaWorld, before every roadside gator farm and water park, this place was the crown jewel. A natural wonder so famous that presidents came to visit, Hollywood movies filmed here, and your grandparents still talk about it like it was the eighth wonder of the world. And at the peak of its popularity, it was the most visited attraction in Florida, drawing over 1.5 million people a year. So, what actually happened to Silver Springs? Once one of the biggest, most beloved, most magical attractions in the entire state. Let's dive in and find out. Silver Springs sits just east of Ocala, and if you've never been here, trust me, the water looks like it's been photoshopped. It's so clear and blue, it almost looks like a big old natural swimming pool right here in the middle of North Central Florida. But long before the influencers with their $800 paddleboards were taking selfies here, Silver Springs was the original tourist destination. In fact, by the 1890s, it was drawing thousands of visitors a year here, at a time when there was barely even any paved roads in Florida. And for me, Silver Springs was the first place that made me fall in love with this state. My grandparents used to live nearby, so every trip down to Florida meant a trip to Silver Springs. The jungle boat ride, the glass bottom boats, the Jeep safari, the animal shows. I even got dragged up on stage once to help with one of those. And as a kid from the Midwest, this place felt otherworldly to me. It wasn't just an attraction, it was my first taste of real Florida. And honestly, I think it might have planted the seed for my lifelong Florida obsession. So how did a place that once pulled in over 1.5 million visitors a year become a quiet state park with a past most people have forgotten? For that answer, we're going to hop in the DeLorean and go back about 150 years. The Silver Springs story begins in the 1870s when a clever boat captain named Philip Morrell put a glass window in the bottom of a rowboat so tourists could see the crystal clear spring below. Little did he know he had just invented Florida's first major tourist attraction and the world's first glass bottom boat. Throughout the early 1900s, steamboats brought visitors up the Silver River, and by the 1920s and 30s, Silver Springs was booming. Hollywood loved it. They filmed Tarzan movies here, Creature from the Black Lagoon, and even some scenes from 3 James Bond movies were shot here, Thunderball, Moonraker, and Never Say Never Again. If water was involved in a 1930s adventure movie, chances are it was filmed here. Silver Springs wasn't just popular, it was legendary. It helped create the idea of Florida tourism before Florida tourism was even a thing. And by the 1950s, Silver Springs wasn't just any old attraction, it was one of the biggest in the whole state. If you were coming to Florida, this was a mandatory stop, right up there with Cypress Gardens and Weeki Wachee. And as business boomed, the owners kept adding more things to do, a lot more. Silver Springs expanded to include the Jungle Cruise, the Ross Allen Reptile Institute, the famous Jeep Safari ride, a full petting zoo, bird shows, snake handling demonstrations, animal exhibits with everything from deer to bears to ostriches. Even giraffes at one point, a lighthouse-style rotating observation tower, seasonal events, even concerts. This was a place you could spend a whole day, easily, from boat rides to safari adventures to reptile shows. It had the same choose-your-own Florida experience energy that places like Busch Gardens would later run with.
Come to Silver Springs. It's a full day of fun and Florida at its very best.
Silver Springs wasn't just an attraction, it was the economic engine of this area. It was so popular that new side attractions and roadside curiosities sprang up around it, all trying to catch the overflow of tourists. In 1963, the Western-themed six-gun territory opened nearby, with staged gunfights, saloons, and a full frontier town. And right beside the entrance, you also had Tommy Bartlett's Deer Ranch, a small petting zoo attraction where kids could feed deer, goats, and other animals. And it wasn't just attractions. The whole area around the springs filled up with motels, neon signs, souvenir shops, and roadside food stands. It was the mid-century Ocala version of what you see around Walt Disney World today. One huge destination creating a whole ecosystem of smaller tourist spots around it, all riding the wave of its success. And by the late 1960s, the Silver Springs corridor was one of the most vibrant stretches of tourism in North Florida. And we still haven't even mentioned the monkeys. Today, anywhere from 150 to 300 wild rhesus monkeys live in the forests and riverbanks around Silver Springs. Ask people online where the monkeys came from, and everybody seems to remember a different version of the story. The Tarzan film crew released them here. A circus left them here. They escaped from a lab. But the version Silver Springs itself uses, and the one best backed up by records, starts in the 1930s. The park's owner at the time wanted to spice up his Jungle Cruise attraction, and his thought process was basically, you know what this river needs? Monkeys. Lots and lots of monkeys. So he put a small troop of rhesus monkeys on an island in the middle of the Silver River, but one problem, he didn't realize monkeys can swim. Whoops. The monkeys escaped, they formed troops, they multiplied, and they never left. And to this day, you can sometimes spot them swinging through the branches along the riverbank like they're in their own little Florida Planet of the Apes. By the mid-1960s, Silver Springs was drawing over 1.5 million visitors a year. It regularly outdrew Cypress Gardens, Gatorland, Weeki Wachee, Marineland, and almost every roadside attraction in the state. Then in 1978, Silver Springs opened Wild Waters, a full-blown companion water park with high-speed water slides, a wave pool, a lazy river, tube rides, snack bars, and that unmistakable 1970s Florida water park vibe. For kids and teens across North Florida, Wild Waters was the summer spot. I actually loved this place back in the day. People would spend the morning at Silver Springs, then walk next door to Wild Waters to cool off. Silver Springs was massive, it was popular, it was beloved, and for many families, including mine, it was synonymous with Florida vacations. So where did it all go wrong? Well, as you may know, in the early 1970s, a mouse decided to move in. When Walt Disney World opened in 1971, Silver Springs didn't just get overshadowed, it was basically Thanos snapped out of tourist relevance. Visitors stopped coming in the numbers they used to, and within a decade, attendance was down sharply. Attractions across Florida felt the impact, but Silver Springs was hit especially hard because it relied on nature and old-school Florida charm, and it was just an hour or so up the road from Orlando. Why would a family who just spent 20 hours driving down here from New York want to stop in sleepy old Ocala and ride a 100-year-old glass-bottom boat when Space Mountain and the Haunted Mansion was just an hour down the road? And throughout the 80s and 90s, attendance dropped, buildings aged, attractions felt dated, ownership changed hands a few times, and then Disney World even expanded. Epcot, MGM Studios, Animal Kingdom. Busch Gardens moved away from being a similar attraction with birds and animals into a full-blown thrill park, and then Universal Studios moved in as well. Silver Springs, once the top attraction in the state, just couldn't compete with all that. Buildings started to fall into disrepair, paint started to peel and fade under the hot Florida sun, and by the late 90s it was clear. Silver Springs was struggling to keep its doors open. And as we moved into the 2000s, things got really messy. Environmental issues began to take a toll on the springs. Rising nitrate levels, algae blooms, declining water clarity, concerns about fertilizer runoff and waste, and the very thing Silver Springs was famous for, that perfect crystal clear water, was being ruined. At the same time, the private management companies were struggling financially. Attendance was falling off a cliff. Animals were being rehomed, and the park was operating at a loss year after year. And by the early 2010s, it was clear the private model was unsustainable. Then in 2013, after years of financial problems, lawsuits, and environmental debates, the state of Florida stepped in to rescue the springs. Silver Springs officially transitioned from a roadside tourist attraction to Silver Springs State Park, a major turning point in its history. A new chapter had begun, but not everybody was happy about it. Many longtime fans felt like the Silver Springs they grew up with was disappearing. And next door, Wild Waters managed to hang on for a few more years, but attendance continued to fall there as well, until finally in 2016, after nearly 4 decades of operation, Wild Waters closed for good and was later demolished, marking the end of the classic Silver Springs water park era that so many Florida kids grew up with. And when the state took over, almost all of the old attractions were removed. No more animal shows, no more Jeep safaris, no more Jungle Boat Adventure, no more wildlife collection. To many longtime visitors, Myself included, it felt like a piece of our childhood was disappearing. But here's the twist. The new state park version of Silver Springs is actually pretty incredible. They cleaned up the water, they restored habitats, they brought back more natural flow to the spring, and the glass bottom boats, the original attraction, still operates and still draws crowds. The park now focuses on what makes this such an essential part of the real Florida, the very thing that first drew people here in the 1890s, that beautiful, deep, clear blue spring. It's now the go-to place around here for kayaking, hiking, and wildlife watching. They focus on spring conservation and eco-education. It's calmer, more authentic, more natural. It's not a theme park, but it's something more meaningful. The modern Silver Spring State Park is genuinely beautiful. If you want perfect spring water kayaking, clear water, manatee sightings, alligators, peaceful hiking, and a slice of old Florida the way it looked a century ago, this is your place. Is it a theme park? No. Are there monkeys? Yeah. Does it still have the charm? Absolutely, but in a different way. If you come expecting the Silver Springs of the 1970s and 80s, you're going to be disappointed. But if you come wanting tranquility, nature, and the best glass-bottom boat tour in the country, you will love it. And the future looks promising. Water clarity is improving, conservation groups are restoring the spring's health, native plants are returning, the wildlife is thriving, and tourism is slowly rebounding, but in a sustainable, different kind of way. It draws nature lovers, photographers, bird watchers, and kayakers. Will Silver Springs ever be a million visitors a year attraction ever again? Doubt it. But will it continue to be one of Florida's great natural treasures? Yes, definitely. Silver Springs didn't disappear, it didn't fall apart, they didn't cover it in resorts and roller coasters, and most importantly, it didn't get bulldozed for condos. It simply transformed from Florida's first attraction to one of its most important ones. For me, it'll always be the place where Florida first cast its spell on me, the place where I got pulled into an animal show against my will, the place that made a Midwestern kid want to move to the Sunshine State someday. And honestly, I think Silver Springs still has a lot of magic left, just in a different form. And if you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching. This video was kind of personal for me. Silver Springs was one of those places that really helped shape my love for Florida, so revisiting its rise, fall, and rebirth was really nostalgic for me and a lot of fun. And if you like this story and you want to see more Florida deep dives from the theme parks to the state parks, hidden gems, best ofs, worst ofs, all that stuff, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I got a lot more cool stuff coming. Until the next one, please stay safe out there, and I will see you around the Sunshine State.